The year was 2000, and Blackpool Pleasure Beach was a place of joy and wonder. Among the park's many attractions was the famous Space Invader roller coaster, a ride that had never caused any trouble before. But on a fateful day in July, everything changed. A young boy named Christopher and his friends were enjoying the ride of their lives when Christopher slipped out of the car and fell to his death. Join us as we explore what caused the tragic death of an innocent boy with a very bright future. In 1896, Blackpool Pleasure Beach opened its doors and promised to be the most ride-intensive amusement park in the UK. With over 120 attractions spread across 42 acres of seafront property, it quickly became one of the most popular theme parks in the world. The park boasted several records, including having the largest collection of wooden roller coasters in the United Kingdom. With 4 massive coasters, the Big Dipper, the Blue Flyer, the Grand National, and the Nickelodeon Streak. Each coaster was a record-breaking attraction in its own right, with the big one holding the title of the tallest roller coaster in the world when it first opened its gates in 1994. If you were a regular visitor to the park, you'd remember the Space Invader too, a steel-enclosed roller coaster that opened in 1984 and provided riders with a thrilling experience. Today the coaster goes by a different name, the Astrostorm, and has found a new home at Breen Theme Park in Somerset, England. But for those who were there when it opened, the memories of riding the coaster will live on forever. The ride, created by German manufacturers Era, was a sit-down roller coaster that quickly became one of the most popular attractions in the park. As riders took their seats and the cars left the station, they were plunged into a world of darkness, with only the occasional burst of lighting and sound to guide them through the twists and turns of the ride. The Space Invader was a truly thrilling experience, designed to push riders to their limits and test their courage in the face of the unknown. As the car made its way up the chain-lift hill, riders could feel their hearts pounding with anticipation, knowing that the ride was about to deliver an experience they would never forget. And when the car hurtled down the 59-foot drop at a 36-degree incline, the rush of adrenaline was almost too much to bear. But the excitement didn't end there. The ride was designed to keep riders on the edge of their seats, with drops, bank turns, and helixes that tested their nerves and pushed their limits. The darkness only added to the thrill, making it impossible to anticipate what was coming next. As the car finally reached the brake run and returned to the station, riders were left breathless and exhilarated by the experience. The ride was a place of joy and wonder, a world where people could escape reality and experience the thrill of the rides. But then something happened. Something that would change the fate of the park and one of its most beloved attractions forever. It was a tragedy that would haunt the minds of those who witnessed it and send shivers down the spine of those who heard about it. The incident involved a young boy named Christopher Surratt, born in 1989. He was just like any other boy, full of life and energy. On a fateful day in July 2000, Christopher and his friends were at the park having the time of their lives. They decided to take a ride on the famous Space Invader roller coaster, a ride that had never caused any trouble before. As they climbed aboard the roller coaster, little did they know that this would be the ride that changed everything. Christopher and his 2 friends settled into the seats, secured by their seatbelts. The roller coaster began to move, slowly at first and then picking up speed. The wind rushed through their hair as they twisted and turned, enjoying the ride of their lives. But then, in a split second, everything changed. Christopher somehow slipped out of the car, and his friends were helpless to save him. They watched in horror as he tumbled out of the ride, his body hitting a stanchion on the way down. It was a moment that would haunt them forever. Christopher's friend, who was seated next to him, described the horrific scene. "I saw his white t-shirt going over the edge. I put my hand on the back of Christopher's seat and the seatbelt was still fastened, but Christopher wasn't there." As Christopher fell off the ride, he landed on the track where he was hit by an oncoming car. The impact was so severe it caused him to fall off the track and onto the truck below. His friends immediately alerted the ride operator, who quickly stopped the ride and turned on the emergency lights. They found Christopher and called the paramedics, but despite their best efforts, he died on the scene. The ride that had brought them so much joy had just become a nightmare, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. After Christopher's mother was informed, the news of the tragedy quickly spread throughout the park, and a spokeswoman for the Pleasure Beach issued a statement expressing their shock and sadness. She also extended their sympathies to Christopher's family. The incident was a devastating blow to Pleasure Beach, and an investigation was launched to determine what had gone wrong. The investigation found that Christopher had somehow managed to slip out of the car he was riding in, and as a result, he suffered massive head and internal injuries when he hit his head on a stanchion and then fell onto the track. The incident shook the park to its core, and the Space Invader roller coaster was forever changed. The once popular ride now had a dark cloud hanging over it, and visitors no longer flocked to it as they once did. The ride was forced to shut down in the aftermath of the gruesome incident. Health and safety investigators conducted a thorough examination of the ride, while witnesses were subjected to intense questioning. The verdict of accidental death was finally delivered following an extensive investigation. But this doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the true horror that befell young Christopher Surratt that fateful day. It is believed that the young boy, seized with panic, attempted to escape the ride by unbuckling his seatbelt or even reaching out of the car. The resulting collision with the stanchion was catastrophic, causing him to be violently hurled out of the vehicle. Alan Jackson, the representative from the Health and Safety Executive, explained that if Christopher had remained seated correctly, he would have been safe under normal circumstances. But the sheer force of the impact caused him to tumble down the track in a horrifying display of human carnage. And if that wasn't enough, the next car on the ride came hurtling towards him, dealing the final blow that snuffed out his young life. After the incident involving Christopher Surratt, the ride's popularity took a severe hit as people no longer felt safe to ride it. Even though the investigation found no fault with Blackpool Pleasure Beach or the ride itself, the negative publicity surrounding the tragedy was enough to keep people away. The incident had a lasting impact on the park, and it was clear that something had to be done to restore public confidence. Despite the lack of charges being brought against the park, there were still many unanswered questions surrounding the incident. The official report claimed that Christopher's seatbelt was not restraining him correctly, but it was never confirmed whether he had himself unbuckled the seatbelt. The park was understandably keen to move on from the incident and focus on improving safety measures, but the damage had been done, and the once popular roller coaster was now regarded with fear and suspicion by the public. The incident also prompted a wider discussion about theme park safety across the industry. Many people felt that more needed to be done to ensure that rides were as safe as possible, and that incidents, like the one that occurred at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, were less likely to happen in the future. Christopher's mother in particular hoped that her son's tragic accident would lead to improvements in safety standards across the industry, so that other families would not have to go through the same ordeal that she did. Despite efforts to restore the ride's popularity, the damage had been done, and the Space Invader ride was eventually retired in 2004. A failed evacuation in 2008 was the final nail in the coffin, and the ride was sold to Green Leisure Park, where it was rebranded as Astrostorm. Changes were made to the ride's design, including the addition of an overhead restraint and a limit of 3 riders per car. The incident involving Christopher Surratt was a tragedy that no one could have predicted. But could it have been prevented? Let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications before you leave so you never miss another roller coaster tragedy story. Thanks for watching, stay safe,